So welcome to this community call for Falco, the weekly community call. We follow the code of conduct of this NCF, so please be kind to each other. If you want to be, this call is recorded, so if you don't want to show your face, just turn off your camera. Today, we don't have any highlights. Jason, mic is yours.
Yeah, so as you folks may know, we released Falco last week, and since then, a good bunch of pretty interesting changes were merged across the repositories. I tried to collect a list of those. I think we have 5 or 6 points or something like that. So the proposal of mine was to create a very lightweight but simple patch release for Falco, so that will become 0.35.1 to include some of those patches. To go through them, the first one is like a simple patch from I think Andrea for the Modern Pro BBPF, which fixes an issue we have on GKE that a user reported when upgrading, so that's good. Another thing that I noticed is that we missed something. There was a tiny bug in the plugins framework with the changes that I pushed for the last release. So this tiny fix will probably help developers using that. Then there's Falco CTL, which apparently we had actually a dependency not upgraded that caused the CPU usage to go 100% and basically freeze the process. It didn't happen like very often. It was a very quite a corner case, but we have a patch release already for Falco CTL, so a new Falco release will allow us to bundle the new version at least. We can do the same with the chart, yeah, but like having a new Falco version will help host-based installations and many other use cases. There are also some improvements on the driver loader, and then there's also like an issue that some users helped me figure out, which is that we added a new rule that is has a very similar condition to others and caused some rules we already had in the rules to be shadowed, meaning that the new rule triggers and basically prevents all the rules to be triggered because the condition is very similar, and Falco only catches the first one, matching a given event. So that probably might be a good opportunity to release a patched rule set as well. So that will become like the Falco rules 1.0.1. Having all that bundled into Falco will be better. So my proposal is to make something very simple. So potentially starting to collect some more fixes potentially over the next few days if some other arise, and then wrap everything up and potentially proceed with the release starting from next week, like Monday or Tuesday. If nobody volunteers, I can like manage this tiny release, but given that it's very small, if any contributor wants to do the first experience as a release manager, I will be very happy to support it and go work on that. That's it on my hand. Please, if you have any contrary opinion or like big concerns about this, let me know. I think it was too clear. No question. Okay.
Just to be clear about the new version for the plugin framework, we all agree the current version will break all existing plugin.
With the current one, you mean, or the one?
Yeah, the plugin framework 0.3. It should.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So retrospective for the last Falco release, the underlying plugin API changed from being version. So first of all, we version the API boundaries between the plugins and Falco, and we were in a version 2.1.0, if I remember. Yeah. And now we created some improvements that caused some breaking changes. So the new version of the plugin API is 3.0.0, as stated in the website. In the documentation has been updated on falco.org for the plugin API reference. And that means that given the semantic versioning check that we do in the libraries, this means that Falco 0.35 that we released last week is not able to load any of the plugins that we published up until now, just the most updated ones that comply to the new plugin API definitions. Conversely, Falco 0.34.1 and prior versions are able to load previous plugins, but not the last updated ones that we published last week. So it's just like a breakpoint basically in the compatibility line, but that has, that is to host the new versions. The new features. The cool thing is that the plugin SDK Go, which is currently the only official tool chain that we provide to develop plugins, didn't change in UX, meaning that if you just upload the dependency in your Go plugin, like basically we did for our officials ones, they will just build like before and comply to the new API definitions, and they will be loadable by the newest Falco. So the transition for developers is very smooth. The transition for adopters is just simple. So if you upload Falco, if you update Falco, you also need to update plugins. And conversely, if you update plugins, you need to update Falco, just that.
Okay, makes sense. We need to communicate with the plugin developers to be sure they are aware of that and they will be able to release new versions.
That, yeah, we tried our best. So that is part of the changelog, I think, in Falco, and also part of the release blog post. I have Federico stating this specific detail. And it's also part of the changelog for the plugin SDK Go. So if you pull the last version, it will explicitly state this exact detail. So yeah, but you're right. I do agree.
I wrote several plugins, so I will do the process and keep you updated if something is strange or doesn't work.
Just that. About that, I can give also a brief detail. Probably the biggest feature that plugins now support is being able to either generate and also parse and extract fields from system call events. So up until now, plugins were just like a new sort of event source, like cloud logs or something like that. That was our main use case over the past year. But it was in big demand for plugins to actually extend more of the hook points or like features, how you want to call them, of the Falco libraries. So that means that nowadays we can start developing plugins that hook into the regular system call event stream, the ones that we collect from kernel drivers, for example, and then, extract new fields, parse them, create metadata enrichment extensions, just like the container runtime or what we have already bundled with Kubernetes metadata. So nothing is happening yet, but basically we have a much more extensible setup for the libraries from now on. Now, of course, developing that stuff is not very trivial, and I try my best with the documentation. Everything is in the API reference and in the developer guidelines for on the falco.org part for the plugins. But at the same time, we need definitely an SDK to abstract all the complexity. And the SDK Go is not very suitable for that use case because all the performance concerns that we have, with the bridge between Go and C, because Falco is written in C and C++, are not acceptable for the amount of events that we receive per second for system calls. So my plan is to actually revamp and work better in a final and maximally optimized design for the SDK CPP, and eventually make that an incubating project in our organization, so that we will have like instruments for developing plugins dealing with system calls in a more meaningful way. That's what I'm working on right now, besides the patch release that I plan to do.
Any comments about what Jason said? No, we can move on. Vicente.
So if you remember, on May 25th, we have a request from Whitney Lee. She works for, well, she has a show, an online show called Enlightening. And she asked for someone to explain Falco to her. She's using a light bulb. And I'm participating on the show the day after tomorrow. So if you want to see it live, you're still on time. Otherwise, I think will be hosted, so it's possible to watch it later. Just forgive me in advance if I make mistakes explaining Falco.
Seems your talk is already online, right?
Yeah, the promotion is already there.
Only the promotion. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, it's streaming 2 days.
It's on Friday and it will be live.
I like the art.
So just join the chat and throw me a little bit. It's gonna be fun.
Right. So good luck for the stream.
Thank you.
Anyone would like to add something for today or introduce himself? If you are new, it's a moment.
Yeah, we have a question in the chat from Stanley.
Oh, what time is it?
I think it's 9:30 Pacific time. So for me, it's going to be like 4:30 UTC +2. I don't know what time zone you are. Sorry, 5. That's there is a half an hour synchronization, but it's going to be 5 UTC +2.
At least the record will be available right after. So even if you sleep or do something else at the exact moment, you will be able to watch.
Yeah, actually,
Recent day.
click on it. It says 8 a.m. PDT, so Pacific Daylight Time. Yeah, 5 UTC +2.
Yeah. I think we are good for today, for this week. Thank you, everybody. See you next week for the next community call.